Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zugs. So we're carrying on with our updated builds for 2026 for Darktide. So we're back on the Zealot. Let's jump in and see what we're using. So this is a heavy eviscerator build because a lot of people have been asking for one. So here it is. Modifiers are as such: damage, cleave targets, shredder, and penetration. Lol. And our dump is mobility because it's kind of crap. Perk-wise, we're going with Flak and Maniac. Flak being the most prevalent armor type in the game, and Maniac to help us deal with those pesky rages and things of the same sort of type. Blessings, we're going with Savage Sweeps and Rampage, but if you don't want this, or you want to go for something that doesn't require hitting multiple targets, because both blessings do require you to be able to hit multiple targets to proc. So if you don't want that, you can change it to something like Shred, which is a stacking crit buff on a chained hit, and momentum, a very good defensive buff. But again, it is hitting 3 enemies, but it does restore toughness. So, swings and roundabouts. I would kind of suggest Shred and momentum or Rampage. They're kind of, you mix and match. See what you think. Like I've said in many videos, I'm not your mum. I'm not going to tell you what you have to do. I'm not going to put little notes in your lunchbox. Test stuff out, it costs nothing. So that's the Eviscerator. Next up, we have our ranged weapon, which is a Spearhead Bolt Gun. Modifiers are damage, reload speed, collateral, and stability, and our dump is mobility. You really don't want to dump out reload speed on the bolt gun because it's painfully slow. Perk-wise, we're going with Flak and Unyielding. You can change this to Unyielding and Carapace if you really want to. You might get a little bit more mileage out of it. Who knows? I would keep Unyielding, though, because it allows you to put down some nice ranged damage against monstrosities and larger enemies. But Flak, it isn't 100% necessary. So if you're going to swap something, swap Flak. Blessings, we're going with Puncture for ranged hits. Add 4 stacks of bleed to enemies, because there is a lot of synergy in this build with bleeds, and also dot damage is incredibly powerful in Darktide. And Shattering Impact, targets receive 4 stacks of 2.5% brittleness. On a direct projectile hit, debuff lasts 5 seconds and can stack up to 16 times. So every video this pops up in, I explain it, but I will explain it again. Brittleness is rending that you apply to a target. Rending is applied to you. Brittleness is applied to a target. It's basically the same thing. And next up, we have the Curio. So we have 2 twinned Curios here. Both are toughness with extra toughness, combat ability regeneration, and damage resistance to gunners. And the last one is a max health with toughness, stamina regen, and damage resistance to gunners. I always stick in a little bit of stamina regen on the Zealot because it's not just about regenning stamina. It's about the speed of which that you start regenning stamina. So it is quite helpful, even if it doesn't look it. But if you don't want it, you can change that off to combat ability regeneration, just to have it across the board and all 3 of them the same. Right, let's take a look at the talents. First off, we've got Anointed in Blood, up to 25% range-based damage to reduce the further you are from the target. Into Disdain, plus 5% damage on your next melee attack for each enemy hit, stacks 5 times. Into Enemies Within and Enemies Without, replenish 2.5% toughness per second while within 5 meters range of an enemy, increased by 1% per enemy, and monstrosities count as 5, up to a maximum of 7.5%. Second Wind, replenish 15% toughness on a successful dodge. You will see in the build there is a lot of on-dodge buffs we're getting, so dodging is quite important. Purge the Unclean, 20% damage against increased damage against infested unyielding enemies. Duelist, 50% finesse damage for 3 seconds on a successful dodge. Increased melee damage. Immolation Grenade, my favorite of the 3 blitz abilities, but you can change this out to either one. It isn't going to make a huge amount of difference. Well, it will change how you play the build, but I mean, it's not going to make or break the build. So pick whatever you like. Until Death, fatal damage instead grants you invulnerability for 5 seconds, occurs every 2 minutes. Thy Wrath be swift. Enemy melee attacks cannot stun you, or taking damage gain 15% movement speed for 2 seconds. Holy Revenant, when Until Death ends, you regain health based on the damage you dealt during Until Death to a maximum of 25% max health. Melee damage dealt heals 3 times that amount. Shield of Contempt. When your allies in coherency take damage, they gain 6% damage reduction in 4 seconds, triggers every 8 seconds. This is a very group buff kind of build. What's the matter, Otto? We've got Providence, 25% revive speed. In addition, allies you assist revive get 10% movement speed and 15% damage reduction for 5 seconds. Good Balance, successful dodge grants 25% damage reduction for 2.5 seconds. Again, as I said, there are lots of on-dodge abilities in this build. Abolish Blasphemers, 15% damage versus elites into Faithful Frenzy for attack speed. And then we're grabbing Benediction. Again, like the Blitz abilities, you can pick whatever the hell you want as you have access to all 3. I find Benediction just works a bit better because it gives you more sustain and makes you harder to kill. Whereas the others, I mean, they're all right. I just think Benediction's the better one of the 3. Into Toughness Boost, and then we've got our key ability, which is Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude. Wielding a holy relic, you release pulses of energy every 0.8 seconds, while channeling allies in coherency have stun immunity and invulnerability. Each pulse replenishes 45% toughness to allies in coherency. If the ally is at full toughness, they instead gain 15% max toughness up to a total of plus 75. Then we're taking one of the tertiary ones, which is Ecclesiarchal's Call. Channeling 5 pulses grants 30% damage to you and your allies in coherency. So this is like one of the strongest abilities in the game. And it's not only a defensive ability, but you can use it to lock down entire groups, and you can use it to push stuff off of ledges. It will work against basically anything. So, unlike the Charge, which I've completely forgotten what it's called, Fear of the Faithful, is it? Yeah, Fear of the Faithful. It's not an ability that is going to wildly increase your damage output. It is going to wildly increase the damage output of the entire team, add a massive amount of utility, and allow you to basically knock stuff off of edges and lock entire groups down. So it is a very, very powerful ability, but some people just kind of don't like it because it doesn't make you go, you know, crazy Super Saiyan, lots and lots of damage, even though it does actually give you a 30% damage buff. But you're not taking advantage of that because you are the one locking everything down. But once you get used to the ability, it's incredibly powerful. Right, let's get down to our Keystone tree. Toughness damage reduction into melee damage boost. Then we're taking Invocation of Death. Plus 100% ability cooldown regeneration for 3 seconds on melee critical hits. Scourge, melee critical hits apply bleed, causing damage over time. Melee hits on bleeding enemies grant 10% crit chance for 3 seconds, stacks 3 times. This is also why we are taking Puncture on the bolt gun. Enduring Faith, plus 40% toughness damage reduction on critical hits for 4 seconds. So lots of crit and bleed here. Prime target, 10% damage and replenish 15% toughness over 5 seconds on elite kill. Blinded by Blood, bleeding enemies increase their damage taken by 15%. Again, more crit, more bleed. Blazing Piety, plus 15% critical hit chance for 8 seconds when in Fury. Fury is triggered every 25, and when 25 enemies have died within 25 meters. Critical hits also count towards triggering Fury. Then we've got Righteous Warrior, plus 10% critical hit chance from Blazing Piety. And last but not least, Stalwart, triggering Fury, replenishes 50% toughness. In addition, while Fury is active, you have 25% toughness damage reduction or replenish 2% toughness each second. So, the build is pretty straightforward. It's basically the classic Zealot before all the updates. You'll be wading in with your chainsword, you'll be using your grenades to deal with large groups, and you can also combine that with the chorus to lock things in the fire, which is also hilarious and very useful. So you can combine the two to basically make death traps. The reason we're using the Mark 15 over the Mark 3, and this is complete personal preference, you can use either one, but I prefer the attack pattern on the Mark 15. Light attacks are big sweeping strikes, so they help trigger those rampage and whatever the hell it was on the weapon. God, I can't remember any of the names today. Savage sweeps and rampage, sorry. So your light attacks basically guaranteed to trigger those blessings in any group, and your heavy attacks are massive overhead sweeps, which make it very easy to get headshots. Don't forget that your special action is to rev the chainsword. That adds a huge amount of damage to what you're doing, so get used to turning that thing on, because you'll be doing it continuously. Especially if you're going for overheads, trying to kill large, annoying targets. But it is a very, very simple build to get used to. Also, don't forget the bolt gun. Bolt gun's very good. There you go, folks. That is an updated chorus build for you. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please do like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, do all that lovely, lovely stuff. And I shall see you all for the next Darktide build. If you have any suggestions for builds you want to see, please do put them down in the comments and I will get round to them when I can. So until then, I shall see you all for the next one. So take it easy and I shall see you later.